So I am currently 4 months pregnant, 4 or 5 months pregnant, around that area right now. And nipple sensitivity is like very serious during pregnancy. I guess I didn't notice it so much during my first because I really had nothing to compare it to. But also during this go around, I think I might have had a little bit of thrush around the time that I decided to stop weaning because it was extremely painful. So around the month of August, I had noticed my breasts were tender and my nipples were sore. It was discomfort, but it was like nothing too extreme. I was just kind of like annoyed when I was breastfeeding a little bit. I'm like, okay, like this doesn't feel like I feel breastfeeding. Like I had been breastfeeding, my son was 19 months when I officially started the weaning process, and by that time I had been breastfeeding for so long that I didn't feel it anymore. Like my nipples were like so used to it, it didn't even matter. So we started the official weaning in the month of September, but I noticed the breast tenderness and soreness in August. So it would come to the point where even when I would shower and rub the towel across my breast, it was like really painful. Like I had to like wash my breast like just with my hands with soap and water. It's like I couldn't use like a towel to dry, I couldn't use a rag to wash. Like I was in like, it was a lot of pain. So I'm like, oh my god, I think I have thrush. So I started like squeezing my milk out and like rubbing the milk around my areola, because breast milk is an antifungal, and if it is thrush, that'll combat the infection. My son didn't have like a white tongue like you see in some of the pictures, but he has had thrush in the past and he didn't have that. So his tongue wasn't completely white like you'll see if you look that up. So here, baby. But yes, so we had decided to start, well, I had decided to start cutting out daytime feeds. So I didn't want it to be like very drastic, but I wanted it to be over because it was painful. But it's a bond that I share with my son, so I wanted to take my time with it. So we started cutting out the daytime feeding rituals, and every time he would grab for my breast, or you know what I mean, like I would just be like, nummies for nighttime, nummies for later, and he would cry. He would cry and throw a fit and things like that. But we would offer him other things. He had already been introduced to whole milk at this time, so we would just offer that more frequently, or some watered down juice, a toy, or sing one of his favorite songs like Wheels on the Bus Go Round and Round. You know what I mean? So we just did things like that to kind of, yeah, round and round. So we did things like that to kind of take his mind off of the numbers. What I got my breast. And that actually did help. So we were doing that. And then when it came to the nighttime feeding, that was where the challenge began. I feel like because when he's up during the day, you're welcome, baby. He can do whatever he wants, you know what I mean? He can run, he can play, but during the night is like when we're trying to go to sleep and he wants comfort, and I'm not trying to, not that I'm not trying to comfort you, but I'm not trying to comfort you in that way. I'm trying to use an alternative, and he didn't care. So the trying to cut out the nighttime feedings and replacing them with bottles, that didn't work for me. So what we had to actually, okay, because I'm pregnant, I have to wake up in the middle of the night to void not constantly, but enough times to where it's annoying. So every time I would find myself getting out of bed, my son is crying like, hi, come back, like I love you, carry me. And I'm like, no, you're heavy. And this is literally gonna take 5 seconds, please. So it was just a lot. Like he wanted to nurse every second of every night. He didn't want the bottle. The bottle didn't mean anything to him in the nighttime. So I had to start defaulting to my spouse. We share separate rooms because I'm pregnant and I don't want to be touched right now. Like I don't want to be touched. I don't want to be breathed on. I need space, and that's okay. I'm entitled to that right now. So He just started sleeping with his father in the other room. And honestly, he is a godsend for that, because it just worked. The first few nights were awful. My son was combative. He was uncooperative. He was not having it. But the more and more like the nights came, we got into this ritual. Papa started taking over nighttime baths. So Papa's doing the wind down. So Papa's giving the baths. Papa, well, I'm still picking out the clothes and helping and things like that. He's not doing everything by himself. But it was like, Papa's giving me bath. Papa's gonna give me Milky. And we're gonna go tonight. You know, we're gonna go to sleep. We're gonna go night-night. And that was his routine. It is his routine and it works. So I don't necessarily know how to explain or give advice to mothers whose spouses work overnight or single mothers who are trying to do mommy-led weaning. But if you do have a spouse or at least someone who lives with you, maybe they could help take over that aspect of the routine to kind of reduce stress. It did help for me, especially me being pregnant. It was just like the constant, my son was not comfortable. He was jumping up and down, and I know he doesn't mean to, but like the kicking, like he would kick me accidentally in my stomach, and that it hurts. I'm like pregnant enough for it to like be an issue right now. So yeah, it was just a lot to take into consideration, and I'm just glad I had my spouse as a support system to help me through that. So that really helped, because now I can actually, I mean, I'm still uncomfortable. I'm like large and in charge, but at least I can somewhat sort of sleep peacefully without my son being on me through the night. My son is happy, he's healthy. We actually don't even use whole milk. We try to, but that gave him a lot of constipation. So we use Lactaid 2%, but just do whatever your pediatrician tells you to do in that aspect. But when you are weaning, just make sure you talk to your kids. So now that I'm not breastfeeding anymore, my son still tries to, you know, grab my breast and things like that. Like they're still his in his mind. Like he still was like, oh, it goes for them, but he won't like try to latch or anything. He'll just grab my breast or something like through my shirt and just like kiss it and be like, mwah. And be like, okay, nummies are for sissy. Nummies are for sissy. So I just like, I mean, whether he knows or not, he probably doesn't understand the concept of a sissy yet. But just letting him know that when the baby gets here, like these are hers, like they're not yours anymore. So we started September 1st and it's October 24th, and he has been completely weaned successfully. He is still growing, happy, healthy, he's beautiful, and yeah. So this was successful to me. I hope that this video can help reach some mamas who are going through this time right now, because my son is now 20 months old and the tantrums are horrendous. So for those of you who are dealing with kids who are 2 or 3, like I know those tantrums are horrible. So just find some help and try to incorporate some of these, you know, little things. So yeah, thank you. I hope you enjoyed my video.